Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. My name's Janice. Oh, there Caverly is again.
Sorry, I think we're having some technical difficulties. But hello. Okay, you can take it off now. I wanted to make sure it was working.
Beautiful. Okay, I'll bring you back in just a minute. So that's Caverly, everyone. If you're here for the first time, Caverly's the meditation teacher that is going to be leading the meditation this morning. And Caverly's been doing this for a few weeks now. I can't even keep track, but I'm here to welcome you and share a few things before we get started. So again, I'm Janice, and welcome back to this beautiful Sangha Live community. Please take a moment to say hello in the sidebar. You can type in where you're tuning in from, and you can scroll through and see the community that's here this morning. I would like to say a couple things about Sangha Live if you're brand new. This platform, the purpose of this platform is to make these transformational teachings available to as many people as possible. So Sangha Live has been around and offering weekly meditation sessions led by teachers from all over the world for the past 5 years. That's been happening every Sunday. And that continues. Sangha Live also offers in-depth courses that you can check out on their website. And then in the face of this global pandemic, Sangha Live made the choice to support the community even more through offering daily meditation series. So Caverly Morgan is one of the teachers who's been offering a morning meditation Monday through Friday for the last few weeks, and that will continue on for next week as well, and probably into the future after that. So it's all possible, this platform, because of the financial support of the community, the donations, the practice of dana. If you have the financial means to give anything, please consider clicking on the green button just below the screen and giving what you can. These teachings aren't possible without that support, and it goes to supporting the platform, the tech, people behind the scenes, and the teachers. And I always like to underline, if giving financially is not an option for you, that's okay. That's why this exists. We really want these teachings to be accessible to everyone. So your presence and your participation is more than enough support. So that's a little bit about Sangha Live. And just to introduce Caverly Morgan briefly, she is so many things. She's a meditation teacher. She's been offering awareness practice for the last 2 decades as a teacher. Her training included 8 years in a silent Zen monastery. She is a nonprofit leader. She founded and continues to be the head of practice for the nonprofit Peace in Schools in Portland, Oregon. She also is the creator of Presence Collective, a growing community of meditation teachers who are lit up about providing these teachings to the world. So I will bring her on, and then she'll be leading a 30-minute meditation today, followed by some question and answer. Hi, Caverly. There you are again.
Good to see you.
You too.
Thanks for your support, Janice. Appreciate you being here. Okay, friends, hello and welcome. It's really, as always, so lovely to see you saying hello in this sidebar, to feel your presence. Thank you for joining in. And for those who are showing up for the first time, welcome. It's been such a joy to be part of this practice community. Such a deep joy to show up in a regular way. And with that, to acknowledge this community, I want to name that I'm deeply touched to be receiving messages from so many of you through my website. And if you haven't checked my website out and you'd like to, it's just caverlymorgan.org. I want to acknowledge that I had a meeting with my assistant yesterday, and I'm unable to respond to every email individually. But please don't let that stop you from expressing what you'd like to express about your experience, practice. Know that I do get these messages, and I will be continuing to, just as with the questions that folks type in, or the questions people bring forth in these calls, as you've seen, those of you who've shown up on a regular basis, as you've seen, I do weave in what's alive for you. So I do get these messages. It takes some time for the messages to get to me, but I want you to know that please don't take it personally if I don't respond to you individually. Some of you know I'm working on a book right now. I'm in the last stages of finishing up a book proposal, and it is more work than I realized it would be. So I just have very little administrative time at the moment. But I want to thank you for your engagement. That's been one of the most touching things for me about teaching through Sangha Live, is that you've been such an engaged group, and it's been very, very touching to me. So thank you for that. Thank you for your participation. One of the emails that I had the chance to, Alyssa, my assistant, had the chance to read to me yesterday as I was closing out my workday, was about acceptance. So I'd like to focus on that this morning. And then I would also like to let you know now, if you're new to this group, coming on screen is a wonderful way to engage with me, the most effective way to engage with me about any question you have, any comment. So the way that will work is, after the period of half an hour of sitting, you'll just write in that sidebar that you'd like to come on screen, and then Janice on the back end, who you just saw, she'll bring you on screen and we can have an exchange. You can also write in the sidebar, but as those who have been coming regularly know, it's harder to have a full response through just writing, because I don't get a chance to hear more about your experience or how words are landing for you. But it's not a requirement to come on screen. So thank you, Yevlin, for naming that this practice is a strong support. I'm so glad that it is. So let's begin by taking 3 of the longest and deepest inhalations and exhalations you've taken yet today. Settling into the position that works for you today. Finding your seat of dignity. Let's begin by noticing the activity of the conditioned mind. You don't need to do anything with what's observed. You don't need to try to change it, fix it, direct it. We're beginning by simply noticing this activity. What's the internal narrative in this moment? What are you saying to yourself about your experience? What's the conditioned mind up to? Simply notice. Can you notice this activity? The way that the sky holds a weather pattern. So with this same openness and neutrality, weather patterns simply moving through. No confusion that these weather patterns are the totality of the sky. So no confusion that this conditioned narrative is you. And now notice how do you know this conditioned activity? Through what means do you know this conditioned activity of the mind? How? This is a place of open inquiry, not a question to be answered by the mind of the intellect. How do you know this conditioned activity? How do you hear this sound of my voice? Through what means can you tell me about your experience? How is that possible? What would you know, see, communicate without awareness? Now, rather than being aware of conditioned activity, aware of naming that activity, aware of hearing, free the ends of those sentences, aware of blank, free the blank. And simply rest in being aware of being aware. So rather than being aware of, just being aware. Does this awareness reject anything? Does the open sky reject storms? Does this awareness judge anything? Does awareness itself feel compelled to fix or change the activity of the conditioned mind? Does it feel compelled to improve upon anything? Is awareness itself grasping or clinging, pulling anything towards it? Does the empty space of a room push away its contents or grasp onto the objects that fill the room? Acceptance is a quality of this vast, unlimited, unconditioned awareness. So simply be aware of being aware. The nature of awareness is acceptance. The nature of unconditioned awareness is unconditional acceptance. Rest as this. So again, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, friends. Thank you for your presence. As many of you know, this is my opportunity. I'm invited to remind you at this point in time to make a donation if you're able. The green button below me is the easiest way to do that. And this platform can't exist without your support. So please do support us financially if you can. And if you can't right now, please practice being gentle with yourself around that. I remember I trained for years at the monastery, the Zen monastery where I lived, and I was never asked for money. I didn't have money to offer until there was a time in which I did, and then I did, and it felt nourishing to tap into that generosity of spirit as I was able to. So thank you for your support. I would love to now open this up to hear from you, questions, comments. You can, again, write in the sidebar. I'd love to have you come on screen if you are willing. And you can also put a question in the question box below, and I will address your question through typed form. But it would be lovely to have an exchange if you're up for it. Hello, Kavi. Thank you for practice. Can I jump on camera? I would love to explore more on the topic of resistance on starting and committing to something new. Of course, Kavi, thank you. Thanks for your willingness to come on screen. So, Janice, when you have a moment, please bring Kavi on. And meanwhile, while we're waiting for the tech support to come through, Charlie, you'd love to have an exchange as well. Beautiful. And we can see if we get the camera issue corrected. Lovely. Thank you. Charlie, I'd enjoy that. While we're waiting for folks to come on screen, I will just remind you that on Wednesday evenings, I teach and we use Zoom, and the details about that are at my website, caverlymorgan.org. And through Zoom, it's a more intimate group, and it has tended to be so far. Anyway, these morning calls, as you know, have many people participating, more people than I could have individual exchanges with. So a reminder about that Wednesday evening group, if you would find that supportive. Easy to have exchanges through Zoom because we're already there in the little gallery seeing each other. And John, thank you for your willingness to give the screen an opportunity again. You're using Chrome this time. Thanks for that reminder, John. It is easier through Chrome. So I hope that Crowdcast isn't having an issue again, friends. I keep inviting you on screen, and then I'm trusting there's perhaps an issue in the background. Janice, thanks for working on it. But just by the fact that no one's on yet, I'm trusting that you're hard at work trying to sort that out. Thank you again. Right. You know, friends, I'll acknowledge that when we've contacted Crowdcast about the issues we've had recently, they've named, yes, thank you, Janice, of course. Let's just try with Charlie if there's an issue getting Kavi on. In fact, let's go ahead and just try, just so we can determine whether perhaps it's something on Kavi's end. Let's go ahead and try to get Charlie on now, please. And that way we can have more clarity. And also, Janice, let's, if that doesn't work either, let's move on to John because he is using Chrome. Yeah, again, I'm not sure why Safari doesn't work as well as Chrome has seemed to, but as I was mentioning, Crowdcast is overwhelmed, I think, right now by, okay, Kavi, I'm sorry it's not working for you right now. So the good news is, Kavi, I know that you've joined these calls every day, and I know that you've been coming to many of the Wednesday evening sits. So please write your question down while it's fresh, and let's explore that at the next Wednesday group. I think there are just more online teachings being offered than ever before, and I think Crowdcast is probably catching up with how to support the high traffic use. So thank you. Thank you for your patience, friends. All right, good. Kavi, I'm glad you wrote it down. So Yevelyn, can you see the conditioned mind telling stories? Where does it come from? Subconscious? Okay, Charlie, you're getting the same error message. Sorry about that. Again, friends, please, hopefully it's just due to Crowdcast's overwhelm at the moment, but do write Jake at info@sangha.live if you think it's not on your end and you want to troubleshoot with Jake in an off time. That would be really helpful so we can sort out where the issue is. And then in the meantime, hopefully we can go ahead and bring on, I think it was John was going to try again. My first Zen teacher used to talk about, okay, good, thanks, Janice. Info@sangha.live is where Jake can troubleshoot with you. So please contact Jake if you're having issues, or if you'd like to come on screen and you'd like to test it out first. That would actually be really helpful so that we can know whether it's a Crowdcast issue or something with the browser you're using. As Janice mentioned yesterday, updating your browser is really helpful. So Yevelyn, you can see the conditioned mind telling stories. Yes, you're aware that the conditioned mind creates and maintains conditioned narratives. Oh, John, I'm so sorry you got invited, but it didn't seem to work. Friends, I'm so sorry. It's just clearly this morning must be a Crowdcast issue. But again, if you would test it out with Jake, that would be great. And then hopefully Monday we'll have a different experience. Okay, Kavi. No, let's see, Yevelyn. Where does it come from? Subconscious. Oh, hello. Yevelyn, hello, wonderful. Okay, well, so Yevelyn, I don't know if there's anything that are you using Chrome?
No, I'm using Safari.
Oh, isn't that amazing? I have no answers.
I'm on my iPad with Safari and it works easily.
It's just, okay, well, I don't know the answers. But thank you, friends. If you have the willingness, please do check in with Jake. And Yevelyn, thank you for being on screen. Please continue with your question about the conditioned mind.
Yes, well, like, during meditation and even during the day, very often I can see like my conditioned mind is telling me stories. It's a whole scenarios and sometimes dramas. So I'm very aware. They are like the waves of the oceans and I need not to identify with them. But I've been asking myself the question, it's curiosity. Where do all these stories, where all the scenarios and the drama come from? Does it come from a subconscious part of the person or any automatic piloting, or it's just curiosity? But I sometimes see how quickly the mind is like starting again, like writing all this drama and all these things. I say, wow, how come?
Well, Evelyn, I'll start by saying that I have a deep appreciation in this moment of the way in which you're able to chuckle about it. You know, if we allow it to be somewhat entertaining, then it is somewhat fascinating. It's like watching a play, or, as you said, a drama. But you know, that to me is the most important, from a practice perspective, that to me is the most important part of your experience right now, that you're able to be in relationship with these conditioned narratives in a different way than what your habit might be, what most of our habit is, which is to take these narratives very personally, to assume that we are these narratives, to have our actions and behaviors in the world be on behalf of and even in service to these narratives. So it's an incredibly important thing in practice that we can get some distance and see ourselves as something other than these narratives. That's the most important piece of what you're describing. And again, that you're able to even chuckle about it suggests that there's great disidentification. We don't laugh about our conditioned narratives when we're fully identified with them, do we? We don't chuckle over them, that this is real and true, that X, Y, or Z. Right? So that experience of disidentification in practice is critical. So I want to acknowledge that. From there, it seems to me that the where question is like a cousin of the why question. And the why question is a slippery one. It's like asking, where did these storms come from? Can you feel how it's a cousin of, like, why do these storms exist? If we're going with this image of the open sky and storms simply passing through. It's not that there's anything wrong with those questions. I think it's just important to pause and name that the answer to those questions, in my experience, don't lead to liberation. The relationship we have with the storms and who we see ourselves to be in how we recognize the storms. In other words, identification versus disidentification is where the juice of our liberation lies. Now, just that stated, it can be interesting and fun, and there's nothing wrong with exploring, like, what is this? What is this all about? Where does this arise from? Can you see, for example, that your conditioned narratives and stories are different from your neighbors?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And yet, can you also see what do the conditioned narrative and stories share with your neighbor?
Sometimes, yes, like patterns.
Yeah.
Sometimes like certain patterns, and I see, okay, that's this pattern or this pattern. Yes. No, I do agree, yes, that sometimes, like, being in the why doesn't bring me anything, whereas being in the how.
Yes. My first Zen teacher used to say, it's not what, it's how. And she used to say that her teacher, when she began training monastically, would say, it's not what, it's how. And it took me a bit to know exactly what that meant, but it's a very important tenet of practice, I find. Paying attention to the process, not the content. And in fact, that's part of what we were doing in this meditation as we accessed acceptance as a byproduct of awareness, letting go of the content, the objects of our experience, aware of X, Y, or Z, and releasing instead into awareness that isn't focused on a specific object.
Yeah.
Because what's at the heart of your exploration, a critical place of inquiry within your exploration is, what is the nature of this relationship? What's the how? How do I get identified with the conditioned mind? And what's happening with that subject-object relationship that we tend to get caught in? So if you're just joining, we've been having these conversations over time, but if you're just joining this platform for the first time today, I'll just acknowledge what I mean by the subject-object relationship is I am seeing myself as a separate self, and I am in relationship with whatever the object might be. I am aware of this bowl, but they get perceived as separate. Right? So exploring the nature of that relationship will be where the richness is. What is the how? Because the how that's most important to see here, Evelyn, is that when we're identified with the conditioned mind, this sense of I is what's kept in place.
Yeah.
So even if your neighbor's content is different, your neighbor's conditioned processes, the content might be different, but the conditioned process of maintaining a sense of separate self is the same.
Yes, because listening to you now, I think it makes me aware that when it starts, there's still, although I'm looking, it's more after a few minutes, I say, okay, started again the scenario. Now you're looking at the drama, but when the drama is starting, there's a separation, definitely. And the how. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Lovely to see you. Okay, Julian, thank you for writing in a question. Does awareness have other always there major qualities than unconditional acceptance? Acceptance doesn't feel like being enough to define it. Yes, Julian, thank you for writing in. And Julian, thank you also for your email and for your engagement, your participation. Yes, absolutely. There are many qualities that we could, many ways that we could describe unconditioned awareness. I would ask you to actually take this on as a weekend place of inquiry, a weekend homework assignment, if you will. Know that as soon as we begin to give names and labels to something that is infinite, we're turning it into something finite. So language falls short. That doesn't mean we can't talk about it. In fact, it can be playful and a delightful exploration to see how much we can allow our words, our language to be attuned to our direct experience. That's what poets are doing all the time. And we can just know language does fall short. Labels do fall short. So yes, that said, however, awareness, the open, vast, unlimited experience of awareness has, there are many, many ways that we could speak about the different facets or qualities of that awareness. Like the open sky being inherently accepting, awareness is also inherently awake. So the key piece of what I wanted to focus on today is how these qualities, awareness is inherently peaceful, unlimited, vast, infinite consciousness, which I'm using interchangeably today with awareness, is inherently liberated. So I would invite you again, Julian, over the weekend to explore, as you rest in your direct experience of being aware, from that experience, how might you describe what's inherently and fundamentally true for you? What is true about your true nature? What is true about your very being? Because you see, it's very different in practice to touch that direct experience of true nature, to know it, to rest in it, to move through the world from your recognition of that true nature. It's very different to move through the world in this way, to know it in this way, versus to identify with the illusion of a self that is separate from life and try to attain those qualities. Try to be peaceful. Try to be more accepting. To try to be more liberated. Awakening is the recognition that we are that which is already liberated, that we've been confused about who we are, about what we are. So friends, thank you very much for your patience today. And from a tech end, it was quite clunky, and I want to acknowledge that's the beauty of practice. We're always practicing with whatever is. So here we are in the clunkiness, practicing being. In practicing being, patience itself is it's a byproduct in the same way that we're speaking about these other qualities. We don't need to try to be patient. As we rest in the recognition of who we are, patience is simply here. Especially given that there's absolutely no way to make this different. I love when these little benign things happen that, for example, tech issues that allow it to be revealed that we don't have control. And next week we could explore more about how that relates to everything else that's happening in this world. So in a world in which we as separate selves are not in control, how might we rest into the remembrance of who we are? Rest into the remembrance of peace. And touch that happiness that is our true nature. So I look forward to being together again on Monday. As always, I'll check to see if there are questions I wasn't able to get to, and I'll sit with them over the weekend and I'll bring them in on Monday. If you're new to this platform, know that all these past sessions that I've done have been recorded, and they're on the Sangha Live website, and I'd love to have you check them out. So over the weekend, please do that if you wish. And I hope you have a delightful one. Thank you so much.